Do you know who Steph Curry is?
Yes.
Basketball player?
Mm-hmm.
By the way, so I live in the Bay Area. Steph Curry, by everything that guy says, everything that you see him do, you think, that's a good guy. That's a good guy who's got empathy for everybody. Seriously, you always hear how cool Steph Curry is. Now, they just had a bill that came up or in their community where he lives, where they wanted to build a tract of affordable housing. Who do you think led the charge to say, no, not here? Steph Curry.
Oh.
Steph Curry led the charge for his community to not build affordable housing. It's a not in my backyard mentality that we have. Mm-hmm. So we're not going to get a lot of the affordable housing needs fulfilled in our country because nobody wants it anywhere where they can see it.
The management and transparency is what's very important. So once you submit a referral, you're going to have your own Home Advantage account, and it's going to tell you where everything sits. So if you have 10 referrals that you've sent into the network, it's going to give you all 10 referrals. It's going to tell you every milestone that client is sitting in, whether they're touring homes, whether they're in escrow. And you now can manage through the Home Advantage application as far as what your pipeline looks like for the referrals that you've sent. And so it's pretty sophisticated, and it's all click of a button, guys.
Welcome, everyone. Starting out, we were just going to kind of recap from last month's call on January State of the Month. You had kind of given a prediction for where mortgage rates are headed, interest rates, and with the Fed meeting last month, just kind of wanted to see if you think that they're on the same path that they were headed. Do you think we're going to see rates in the 5s, maybe even dipping into the 4s mid to the end of 2023?
I think the Fed is like a split personality. The Fed is like that movie Sybil. You know, you just don't know which one you want to be, the good Fed or the bad Fed. I don't think the Fed knows exactly what they want to do. I don't think they understand what the point of their policies are. Think about this for a minute. So we get COVID. Give me a wide berth on this. We get COVID. They tell everybody we can't work. Maybe a bit too much, right? Now nobody's working, so nobody's making incomes. So what do? They print trillions upon trillions of dollars, and they hand it out and they give people free money. Probably, maybe a little too much, right?
Yep.
So now what do we have? All right, so we have people sitting at home with all this newly minted free money saying, hey, I'm kind of okay with this. I don't know if I necessarily want to go back to work. This whole staying at home thing is working out for Brian right now. Now I have to go commute again and get back in that, or I could take an early retirement. So what happened is we saw a ton of people take early retirements. Now, with my newly minted money, I became a consumer. When we first got all our free money, what did we do? We went to our restaurants and we ate on these covered patios, which were evidently COVID safe, which makes no sense to me. But then we became consumers and we started buying stuff. Here's the problem. Our supply lines, our supply chains, they were broken, fundamentally broken, because the people who were building, sending, and selling the goods and services that we're all buying, they're not there anymore. So they're gone. So what happens when your supply chain gets screwed up? The cost of those goods goes up. Now that's broken because we don't have as many people employed right now. We have almost full employment, but that doesn't necessarily mean we have higher employment numbers than we had pre-COVID. It just means that we have more people who want to work are actually working, but we have more people who don't want to work. More now than in the history of our country. So now prices of goods and services go up because the supply chain has been broken. We are now consumers because we got all this free money. So everything becomes more expensive. So the Fed comes in and says, I'm going to lower our balance sheet, which really hurts interest rates. That's the one that hurts interest rates. And then I'm going to raise the Fed fund rate. And they raised the Fed fund rate higher than at any point since 1984 when Volcker was the Fed chairman. So now, but it was a fundamentally different market back then, wasn't it? Because we had people who wanted to be employed. We had out of control inflation. So right now, the Fed has come out and said, the reason we are raising rates right now is because we want to lower your income. That's the Fed policy as it sits today. The thinking is, if the Fed can screw your income up and your job up, that means you're going to buy fewer goods and services. And that means goods and services, the price of those goods and services are going to come down and inflation goes down. Here's the thing. We have two problems with two different solutions. It wasn't like back in 84 when Volcker was doing this stuff. We have two problems with two solutions. The assumption right now is we can take the same principles and apply them to today's market, continue raising rates to make everything harder for everybody in this country. So we will quit consuming so much, which might work, but it doesn't do anything bringing more people back to work.
Right.
So the problem with the Fed fund rate, here's what they're going to do. They're going to raise it by a quarter. They're going to raise it by a quarter this next quarter, and they're going to raise it by at least a quarter the following quarter, because they're still looking at our employment numbers and they're saying, wow, employment is still too low. We got to do something to get this employment under control. So let's keep raising rates. Well, it's not going to fix the problem. Everybody who wants to work is working. We have more job openings than we have workers who want to fill those positions. Nothing the Fed is doing right now is going to change that. So what do I think? I think the Feds are going to continue raising rates. I think what we're going to see is they're going to create enough pain to where mortgage interest rates are going to start coming down. They're going to continue lowering their balance sheet, which is going to make mortgage interest rates want to go up. But they are and will create enough pain. So we will see rates go down to somewhere in the mid fives to maybe the mid fives to the high fours. This is according to almost every economist and every rate prognosticator in the country. By the end of this year, we will see probably another 200 basis points, 300 basis points come off the table for rates. So rates will come down, but I don't know if it's going to make anything easier for all of us, because the Fed's policies are going to guarantee that not only are people in the mortgage and lending space going to have difficulties with their jobs, but that's going to spread to the rest of everybody who's employed.
Okay. Gotcha. So the next question, and this is something I feel like comes up a lot right now. Do you think that we're currently in a housing bubble, and where do you think home prices are headed? Do you think we're going to see more of the multiple offer situations coming back into play, people dropping or waiving their inspection notices and all of that again? Or do you think that's, the opportunity to ask for seller credits will be coming back? What do you think there?
I don't know if you remember, but back in 2008, new home builders, they couldn't get rid of these houses. They're putting brand new 5 Series BMWs in the garages. Oh, if you buy this house, I'll give you a $70,000 car. So that's what was, because we can't lower the prices, but I'll give you a $70,000 car. I'll give you granite countertops. The problem that we have right now is we're 3.5 to 5 million units short of where we need to be to have a healthy housing market. So and new home builders are essentially not building right now. New house starts and new permits, they're basicly dead, just flatlined. So until we start to get more, until we get more, what am I saying here? Excuse me.
More inventory.
Of the brain. Until we get more inventory, and that doesn't really appear to be on the horizons. I think we're not going to be in a housing bubble. I think property values are going to continue to stay relatively high. The two things that we have kind of going for us right now is, well, the one thing that we have going for us for sure is baby boomers, like my parents. I don't know how old you are. How old are you?
37.
Yeah, your parents might be, your parents are young boomers. My parents are old boomers. Here's the thing. Baby boomers are dying right now, and baby boomers own houses.
Right.
So how are we going to get inventory? And they're the second largest generation and the largest generation of homeowners in our country right now. And I don't mean to be macabre about this or poke fun at it. I mean, my mom's old. I want her to stick around, but they own more homes than any generation. And boomers are, they're getting into their 80s, and that's kind of, that's when the dominoes start falling. So I think we're going to see some inventory from that. And I think that's a good thing. I think we're going to see some inventory from foreclosures when states figure out that they need to quit making payments for people who aren't making their payments and allow these properties to get foreclosed on. So people who will make the payment and pay the taxes, we can put them in those houses. So I think a wave of foreclosures and I think boomers passing away are going to be the two opportunities for us to increase inventory. But even at that, it's going to pale in comparison to what we need to have happen. And that's new home builders going out there and building massive amounts of new homes. Honestly, make them small, smart homes. Use eminent domain. use small smart homes, put them all across the country.
Mhm.
You want to know what? That's not going to happen though. You want to hear something funny? Do you know who Steph Curry is?
Yes.
The basketball player?
Mm-hmm.
By the way, so I live in the Bay Area. Steph Curry, by everything that guy says, everything that you see him do, you think that's a good guy. That's a good guy who's got empathy for everybody. Seriously, you always hear how cool Steph Curry is. Now, they just had a bill that came up or in their community where he lives, where they wanted to build a tract of affordable housing. Who do you think led the charge to say, no, not here? Steph Curry. Oh. Steph Curry led the charge for his community to not build affordable housing. It's a not in my backyard mentality that we have. Mm-hmm. So we're not going to get a lot of the affordable housing needs fulfilled in our country because nobody wants it anywhere where they can see it. But yeah, anyways, back to your point, I was getting in the weeds on that. We're going to get some inventory, but it's going to pale in comparison to what we need. And that's new home builders to get back to work.
Gotcha. Okay. So that kind of goes into the next question too, which is, I noticed actually on National Real Estate Post, there was a topic about down payment assistance being up, more down payment assistance funds being available. What do you think about that? Sometimes I know around here, we start to run low on grants in November, December, but it looks like some of them have actually even increased the amounts for the grants this year, where they used to be $5,000, now they're $6,000, which is pretty nice for home buyers.
Yeah, I think in a lot of communities, what we've done is we've gotten away from reasonable down payment assistance, and we've had our communities have reallocated that money to homeowners who aren't making their payments and giving them free money to make those payments. So we've taken money from down payment assistance to pay the mortgage payments for deadbeats. That's what I see going on. And it's interesting where you live. Are you in Missouri?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So it went from $5,000 to $6,000. That becomes a meaningful amount.
Right.
But if you look at like Livermore, California, right around the corner, the median sales price for a house is like $2.5 million. In San Jose, it's like $3.5 million. Mm-hmm. In Palo Alto, it's $7.5 million. So how much money would we need in order to make a down payment assistance program effective in these high cost communities? And it doesn't even need, like where we live right now, it's probably $500,000 is the median price, maybe even a little lower now, because I think we're going down a little bit. But how much money would you need to put on the table with a down payment assistance program to make that meaningful? So even at $500,000, if you're looking at $3.5, if you're looking at almost $20,000 for a down payment. Mm-hmm. And that means that we're going to give out $20,000 grants individually. And if we do that, how many of those are we going to be able to give away? And the thing is that across the country, the median sales price for a house is somewhere to the tune of $485,000. So you're looking at a large amount of money for down payment assistance to make the whole thing work. I think what I like better is some type of grant program that with like we have our CHAFA and CHDAP programs where you're getting into these loan programs that are offered by the state of California, where you're getting these artificially lower rates that become, permanent. You have to qualify for them, 80% of the median income for your neighborhood and all that type of stuff. Right. Credit scores over here. You can't be a deadbeat and all that. But what you'll do is you'll get a extremely low payment on your first, and then you'll get a reasonable second that could become forgivable over a length of time. Mm-hmm. So I would love to see more meaningful down payment assistance programs come back that very much and only target underserved communities, just only target underserved communities.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
But I see these programs, and everything is cyclical, but I see in a lot of markets right now, we simply don't have that available to us. And it's a travesty. I had a conversation with Dave Stevens at the NBA, and I asked him, I said, when I'm looking at underserved communities, I'm like, all right, African-Americans own fewer homes now than they did 30 years ago. The same thing with Hispanics. We've spent billions upon billions of dollars helping underserved communities and communities of color, yet all we're seeing is we're going backwards. Are we failing? Have we just completely and fundamentally failed? And he goes, we absolutely have. And so, yeah, I think what we need to have meaningful programs, down payment assistance programs, and a national direction, a strategic national direction on how we're going to build these houses to make these loan programs work. Until we do that, everything that we're seeing from the FHFA, Fannie, Freddie, Jenny, it's all window dressing. And you see, and by the way, you'll watch this whole thing ramp up here in about a year and a half when elections come around. It's the same thing that happened at the elections 2 years ago. There was so much talk about how much help the housing industry was going to get. And what's happened since then? Nothing. Crickets. Completely and totally overlooked.
Right. Yeah. Was it 2010 when there was the first-time homebuyer tax credit? And a lot of people will call in and ask if that's going to happen anytime in the future. And it's like, that would be nice. Instead of the upfront down payment assistance, give you something to look forward to when taxes are filed to get that cash. You can use it to, do some renovation or buy furniture or whatever you need to do once you've already bought the house.
But by the way, that was a great program. That was a program that had teeth in it. That really was. Yeah, I'd love to see something like that come back.
That would be nice. Next topic that I wanted to mention, Wells Fargo. What do you think?
They're great.
Well, with them exiting kind of the correspondent scene for, you think that's temporary? Do you think that they'll be back as far as retail, or what do you think will be coming next?
They finally... They finally followed the lead of Jamie Dimon. Jamie Dimon and Chase, they got out of lending, correspondent lending, and they got out of retail lending. Because it just became too punitive for them. They were getting sued too much. There was no money on the table. And what you're finding with these regulatory agencies, they're not going to go out. The thing is, like smaller banks, regional banking institutions, the CFPB is not coming after you because they just don't have the manpower to do it. What they're going to do is they're going to go after the big boys. Right. Once you become big enough for them to make a splash, it's worth their while to go. And because once they find, Wells Fargo for $3.5 billion for a discrimination, or $5 billion for overdraft fees, or $10 billion for, car loans and all this ridiculous stuff, they get on their bully pulpit and say, look what we're doing for you, the CFPB. What they're doing is it's a shakedown. It's nothing short of a shakedown. So Wells Fargo got out of it because the punitive nature of writing loans through correspondent channels or retail is just too punitive. They're losing money doing this because they're getting sued faster than they can close loans. Now, on the retail end, I think it's great. I think it's great that they're not writing loans. But with the correspondent channels, this is really painful because there's a lot of lenders who are working with correspondent channels with Wells Fargo, either directly or indirectly. So when they're pulling out of the game, we're losing. I'm literally just stink eye in this thing, but maybe we're losing 25% of our funding opportunities through those correspondent lines. And so again, supply and demand, just like the shelves being empty. If we have fewer opportunities for money, the cost of that money is going to go up. So it's going to have what it's going to do is you're going to see possibly an effect of higher interest rates. But then what you're going to see underwriting guidelines are going to change because perhaps the correspondent channels with Wells Fargo are going to be different than company, Y and Z over here. So we might find that the underwriting guidelines that we have been accustomed to, they might be modified. They might change a little bit. So underwriting guidelines possibly tightening up, and this could have a higher effect of higher rates on the mortgage market.
Gotcha. Yeah, I saw that the most recent fine that happened was $3.6 billion. So it's, it's kind of understandable that they would be like, okay, we're gonna.
Oh, come on! Would you stop it?
We're gonna back off for a little bit. That's a heavy one. So the last thing that I wanted to mention, and this has been coming up quite a bit, and understandably so. What are your suggestions for agents that are wanting to host some first-time homebuyer seminars for the spring, getting people ready for the spring? Just places to host, things to do during the seminars, way to get people to show up. What would your suggestions be?
Well, first of all, work with a lender. Actually, work with a lender for safety reasons. I've been doing this show for 23 years. I'm not kidding you. I do a show once a year about a realtor getting killed. I'm not kidding, and I don't mean to be negative about this, but once a year, you guys put yourself in some precarious positions. And when you're in an empty house by yourself, just make sure the buddy system and people are aware of where you're at. That I think that's a huge thing to do. The other thing is, listen, market it not only online with all the services that we have online, but there's companies like Listing Booster that has great flyers that you guys can use, e-flyers or printable flyers, brochures on your property. And then what Listing Booster also has is it has an interactive property search portal for smart televisions. So you can actually go in the house for your open house. If in Listing Booster, if you're a realtor, you're working with a lender, it doesn't cost you a penny. You can actually even get your own channel, and it's an IDX, it's a national IDX feed. You get access to every property in the country. So you can actually, on the TVs in the house, you could actually show properties while you're in there, which would be really cool. But yeah, people like little goodies and handouts. They like to, having the cookies is always great. This is Open House 101, being available. By the way, signage, as much signage as you could possibly do. It's been shown that for every other sign, every additional sign, you're going to get 10% more people going through the property. Tons of signs, every access point that you could possibly think of. That's a great thing to do. And then for lenders, what I would do, or what I did this actually out in Arizona, is I got a chest full of waters, sodas, and beer. Big old one. I spent $200 maybe. You know how much beer and water and soda you can buy for $200?
Yeah, especially water.
Exactly. And then what I did was I went around to all the open houses. I just chartered them all out as a lender, and I went to all the open houses, and I sparked up a conversation with these real estate agents. Most of them were working these properties alone, talking with them and just offering them waters or maybe, like snacks and things like that. Or, hey, by the way, if you want a beer, some people want a beer, they, whatever the case is. But as a lender, from a lender's perspective, you can use that as a marketing opportunity. Hit up all the open houses in your area on Saturdays. Maybe there's 6 or 7 of them. If you did that every single week, you don't have to work the open houses. If you spent an hour to 2 hours every week doing this as a lender, do you think it'd be reasonable that you might pick up one more real estate agent on a weekly basis? Do you think one of those agents might say, you know what, I'm going to give Brian a shot because my lender's not doing anything for me right now? Brian's showing up with sandwiches and beer.
Yeah,
Brian's going to pick up at least one. It's a really great marketing opportunity for lenders to work with real estate agents. And for lenders out there, honestly, the other thing is reach out to your agents, find out if they're doing open houses, encourage them to do open houses, print their brochures for them, market the open houses on sites through your social channels, along with a real estate agent. Go to your small businesses and see if you can market your open houses there. Most of them will say yes. But yeah, open houses are a great idea. We have gotten so far away from where we need to be and what we need to do. Everybody wants to blast things on CRMs. I've got a list of 200 real estate agents. I got a list of 2,000 real estate agents, and I'm going to send them all a message on a weekly basis. They don't want to hear from you. Great, you spammed them. That's what you did. You spammed them. Do you like to get spammed? I don't like to get spammed. We've gotten so macro with our business. What we really need to do is we need to start to really focus on our fundamentals and the small, smart details and the hard work too, guys. And an open house is really working on the small, smart details. And that's where you're going to find your success in this market, because things are going to be few and far in between. And doing something that's indiscriminate and very impersonal is not going to win the deal for you. Because in a world of parity, people are going to work with who they know, like, and trust. And you don't get that through a spamming campaign. You get that through knocking on a door, or actually calling somebody, talking with them, or taking them out to lunch. So do I think they're a great idea? I think they're spectacular, and I think we need to get back to it.
Good, I agree. So yeah, there's the open houses, which we're seeing that really pick up, especially as the weather gets nicer, we'll see more and more of that. And then also the homebuyer seminars, where maybe they're hosted at coffee shops or restaurants. You get the small banquet space, have people come out. Same suggestions on those, post them on social media, reach out to your database, all same thing.
Absolutely. And work with your, again, if you're a realtor, work with a lender, because a lender is just a plus one. That's another marketing arm for you. See, if you can work with a title company, if a title company, I don't know if they'll be able to help you or not. I know that's weird, but if you can work with a title company, work with the title company as well. Invite a pest inspector.
Yes. Yeah.
Invite a whole house inspector. I mean, we can do these things. Maybe you can host it at a pizza shop and see if you can market it through their database. Hey, I'm I want to hold this over here in a couple of weeks. Do you mind if we market this over here? Can we leave this flyer next to the register? Come back to this pizza shop here in 2 weeks and learn all the fine details of buying a house in the 21st century. You just think of all the marketing opportunities we have. Mm-hmm. Everybody and everything is a database and an opportunity. So make sure that you're inviting the right people and accessing the right databases to make these successful. And if you can get 100 people, or if you get 50 people to come to one of these first time homebuyer webinars, it's a success. And here's what you have to understand: they don't need to be a bloodbath. You don't need to get up there and cut me, Mick, and talk for 3.5 hours. Mm-hmm. You don't need to do that. Make it lighthearted. Just stick to the 30,000 foot details on this stuff. Talk about down payment. Talk about source and season money. Talk about, minimum credit scores. Talk about saving your money, not spending your money on shit that you don't need when you're buying a house. Stuff like that. Just keep it really 30,000 feet, and people will totally appreciate it. What we do for a living comes second nature to us. But people who've never bought a house before have no idea. There's a lot of people who don't know that there's a difference between a lender and a realtor. I mean, that's what we're dealing with. You just keep this stuff high. And then have properties that are available. And as a lender, bring your computer to this thing. And once it ends, see, hey, who wants me to pull their credit report right now? Let's see where we stand. How close can we get to actually buying you a house? It's rate, date, and freight is what they're looking for. How much does it cost? When do I get it? And what's my payment going to be? And a lender needs a couple of things to figure out what's going on here. What do they make? What's their income? What do they make? What's their income? And dare I say, how much do they have in the bank? Those are the three things that you really it's really 2.5. What I have in the bank, you're probably dealing with FHA deals, and, we can use mattress money from mom and pop on that type of stuff. So we don't need a whole bunch to figure out like the qualifiability of somebody. And it's really about, filling in the dots after that. But yeah, first time home buyer seminars, they're killer. I think they're a great idea.
All right. Well, that's really all I had today. And just kind of wanted to also mention, if you don't have the NREP app on your phone, go look it up on the App Store and get that downloaded and start. If you're in the industry, start your day scrolling through there instead of, the mindless scrolling that some of us do in the morning. It's a great way to start the day and know what's going on in our industry.
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate that. And is this a one-off, or are we going to be doing this again?
You know what? We'll see if Sean wants me to come back again.
Do you work with him?
I do. I have for 11 years.
Really? Just go flick him in the nose.
I'll let him heal.
Just flick him in the nose.
Yeah.
Hey, I think I've got this. Just flick him in the nose, and we'll turn this into a regular thing.
Yeah, I'll take this from here, Sean.
All right, Michelle, I appreciate it.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Thank you. Bye.